Denims and Frogan were doing.
Now keep in mind, okay, I believe that Hutch and Pisco agrees on everything, except for the fact that Ethan Klein presents himself as someone who is trying to protect the reaction community. Okay, that is the one issue Pisco has an issue with, and he has been going hard on Ethan Klein for that, and of course the write-up of the lawyers, okay, for the lawsuit in the first place. Okay, but Hutch is basically saying, okay, we agree on everything except for this one thing, and you're going this hard on him for it. Seems kind of weird, man. So we'll see whether or not Pisco has snark brain. Okay, we don't know. All right. That's where Pisco is trying to capture some social currency from far lefties over correct burning the D bridge. Who knows? Okay, but that's what everyone's suspicions are too. But we'll have to see. All right.
I already
agree.
But to be fair, it is part of Pisco's personality to be a little bit gay, okay? Even when he was a part of Steven's circle actively, he was still of the homosexual variety, as they say, okay? How did the Pisco Destiny Bridge get burnt? Oh, the Pixie stuff. Yeah.
Like X2C and Asmongold did what Denims and Frogan and the other people did, then he would. I assume he'd probably sue them.
I agree that they're not. That there is a difference in what they did. I'm not like arguing that there isn't a difference. Okay, I want to be clear. I'm not arguing that there's a difference between what XQC does and what that there's no difference between what XQC does and what
a martini, shaken not stirred.
You think Destiny's rep will recover from the lawsuit stuff? Also, your take on Destiny changed? I've been out of the loop on the Destiny stuff. THX.
I think he'll recover partially. He has already recovered like a part of his reputation, but no. I think that he has been permanently damaged in some degree from all of this. Yes, I do genuinely believe that. Your take on Destiny have changed? No, it has not changed. I think that his lawsuit is bonkers. I think that he's probably going to win, and he probably deserves to win from the lawsuit from how unfair it sounds. However, I still believe that he has still not gotten explicit consent from people whose nudes that he has given to other people, which is, again, not a good practice. All right, even though implicit consent was technically given, I do agree with that. But regardless, I agree on explicit consent. I don't care about implicit consent, okay, when it comes to social situations. Legally speaking, he's fine. All right, maybe, probably, most likely. All right, whatever. But by now, he has already been sufficiently punished, okay? However, I do still think that, yeah, if you don't ask me, but you still think that there's some kind of implicit consent going on there, don't fucking share my nudes around! It's as simple as that, okay? Anyway, that's about it. My positions have not changed. But I'll still defend Destiny. Why? Because I still watch him. All right?
that I'm saying.
For the record, this is also the position of the DGG fan base as a whole as well. I think everyone acknowledges that Destiny has done wrong. But they still watch him because he gives good commentary. That's it. Okay? Does anyone actually think the Pixie stuff isn't a reflection of his degenerate prioritization of hedonism over things? I don't care about hedonism. I don't care about any of that. If you're a gooner, you can goo all you want, okay? But you have to you have to have some level of consent. That's it. You can goon. Just don't goon in public. All right? Or don't do weird gooning.
I want to repeat it one more time, just for not for you, for the audience. I am not saying that there is no difference between what XQC did and what
but thank you for $5. Thank you for $5.
I am not saying that. All I'm saying is one of the stated intent here by saying I would never sue these people is because he doesn't want to chill these kinds of people. He wants to the opposite. He wants to protect them. And what doesn't make sense is the notion that you would want to protect that which you say shouldn't happen. Why would you want to? And the best analogy for this is the thief analogy. You would never say, would you, that like, okay, people might come to my house and steal my money, and there could be people who do it maliciously, that is to help themselves, but they don't really care about hurting me, and the people who steal from my house literally just to hurt me. And I will, you know, because it's so much worse to me when someone steals my money.
But if gooning stops you from doing good things, then it's bad, no? Like, surely the consequence of this... Yes, but the consequences of this isn't hedonism, dude. I'm sorry, the cause of it wasn't hedonism. Because I believe that even people with, like, low libido and doesn't even goon that much can still totally leak nudes. right? This is why whenever somebody ties it to hedonism or a sex drive, I totally and utterly disagree. I have seen people with low sex drive do the most reprehensive sexual shit, okay? So yeah, that's about it. So I don't agree with this tying to hedonism.
Specifically to hurt me, I'm justified in going after those people as opposed to the non-malicious thieves.
It's
But
not
you would
about-
never
it's
say,
not- it's
but
not
let's
about
say that you say
hedonism.
it's an injustice when people.
It's about like a fucking warped sense of psychopathy, sociopathy. Yeah.
Will steal from me
That's
no
it.
matter what. You would never say something like this. Well, I'm going after the malicious thieves to protect the non-malicious thieves, which who I say are an injustice. That's what doesn't make sense.
Well, I think he's not saying like he wants to protect non-malicious thieves. I think like
He
a good
is
faith.
he is saying that because he said that I would never sue XUC. I wouldn't want to chill them.
No, but I'm saying I think if we assume good faith for Ethan, like let's just assume for the sake of the argument that he's being genuine when he says he wants to protect the React community.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only way that the only conclusion you could come to as far as like his methods for trying to engineer change, basically like reform within the React community, is that by having this lawsuit clarify a few things, because my understanding is that the React stuff is still like very much in a gray area
Yes,
legally.
true.
Like there was a decision when he sued. I think he was sued by someone, and the judge, from what I read, basically said that, you know, his ruling was not necessarily, he wasn't saying that all React content is fair use, and that it would have to be like up to the individual cases that come in the future. He was saying that specifically Ethan was fair use, but he didn't necessarily.
I'm actually really attractive. I work out every day. Corey, you know what would make you even more attractive? Signing on to aura.com/foodshops. That would increase your 10 to an 11, okay? Boom!
He was
Define
saying
what
that.
fair use was. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so like, so through this process, we could get some kind of a decision or some kind of ruling that could set a precedent that could like give more clarity. Otherwise, the potential like really bad outcome that could happen is like if you sued someone like XQC or Asmongold, maybe you get a precedent that that ends up in his words like chilling the React community. It becomes like way too broad, and then people are just so way too scared of litigation to do any kind of React content. But by specifically focusing on the malicious actors, you could get a more sort of like precisely defined interpretation of the statutes.
So first off, even accepting that frame, which I don't accept, because I deny the predicate in the first place, and we'll talk about that. Even accepting that that's what he's saying, it would entail being delusional, because only a delusional person would think that they would be able to cabin whatever precedent comes out of this to be targeted to intentional siphoning, when
no
intentional siphoning or an intentionality isn't an element of fair use and isn't an element of copyright infringement. And so it would be bizarre, wrong, inappropriate to suggest that any kind of precedent that you would have the expectation that it would be limited to the kind of infringement that Ethan says that he wants to get rid of. Query, why wouldn't we want to get rid of all infringement, right? So Ethan seems to say that I want to protect some amount of infringement, right?
I'm pretty sure that even Ethan Klein has called out Pisco. Ethan Klein has made like a kind of an unhinged tweet, like to be fair, an unhinged post saying that Pisco was equivalent to Mike from PA in terms of lawyer skills, which I greatly disagree with for sure. But yeah,
he says that, right? He's saying I want to protect some infringement.
No. I think he's saying he wants to protect fair use.
Well, no, he says I could sue more creators and rake in millions of dollars. So there are infringers that he could sue, but he doesn't want to chill them.
Because the potential outcome of, again, a potential outcome of suing someone like XQC
would be what?
or Asmongold could end up with an opinion that's like way more broad.
Oh, wait, and this couldn't?
I suppose, but I think there's less risk in this situation.
Why?
Wouldn't you say?
No. I would say
because of the particular egregious nature of their malice.
No, but that's not an element in the fair use analysis or in the the test for infringement. You know, intentional siphoning is not an element, right? I could intend to siphon money from you, but give a fair use work, right? I could say, I really want to steal from Hutch and I'm going to do this, but it turns out that my work is fair use, right? It's a strict liability offense. The infringement aspect of it, and the fair use is also strict liability. Now, I would still include those statements in the brief. I still think they're stupid statements, but there is absolutely no reason to think that the precedent coming out of this would at all be limited to what Ethan is claiming, I think disingenuously, that this is what it's about, which is it's going after people who are intentional siphoning. Because I stress again, it's not about purpose. It's not, intentionality. It is about purpose and character of the work, but it's from an objective perspective. It's not from your subjective.
2x, please? No, I can't focus if it's 2x. Sorry, I don't have rampant, severe, mental disabling, vegetable-inducing ADHD.
Intent to steal money or not steal money. That is not an element in the underlying fair use or in the underlying infringement. So that's what I'm saying, is that anyone who would expect that precedent in any kind of dispositive motion practice here would turn on this issue of quote unquote malice and intentional siphoning is deranged. It's deranged to think that. It's just as likely to produce precedent that narrows the scope of what the status quo is this day and age. It's going to narrow the amount of reactions that can occur, because probably a lot more reactions are infringing than people think. And that's true because Ethan acknowledges that, because XQC and Asmongold, people who he says he wants to protect, he acknowledges that they're infringing. And that's what doesn't make sense to me, Hutch, this entire thing. Why would you say that you're trying to protect that which you call an injustice? He starts the video, I want to repeat, he starts the video by saying the people who do these long views of content, not just people who have a stated intentional malicious intent or whatever, it's people who watch this long thing without being transformative. He calls that theft, and he calls that an injustice, and he says that.
Yeah, but he's not suing them based off of that. What do you guys think? Do you think Pisco is trying to appeal to the people who watch Queeman and J-Stock?
XQC is a prime suspect, and he talks about ReactGate. And you remember where Ethan Klein was during ReactGate, and during ReactGate, he was saying that this was wrong what XQC was doing. And so it doesn't make sense for us to think that what he's actually trying to do is protect XQC and Asmongold and these types. And that's one of the reasons why he's doing this, is
why
to
would you want
protect
that
those
audience
guys,
anyways?
because he's been on record attacking them.
I don't think he was. I don't think he meant to say like, "Oh, I'm trying to protect specifically Asmongold and XQC." I think he was trying to say, "I'm trying to protect the larger community," because if it goes on the way that it's been going on with these like loose or no standards whatsoever, then the potential for something much more consequential becomes more likely down the line. The moment that we're in right now, I think with React stuff, is very similar to the moment that gaming content was in when I came up on YouTube back in 2008, 2009. People just started uploading gaming videos, and there were very, like, Nintendo was a company that, and they still might do it. They used to do a lot of like takedowns for any kind of gameplay whatsoever.
That's so
And
stupid.
then a company named Machinima came along, and then all of a sudden we started monetizing like gaming content, even though we did not have the rights to like upload this content.
Even though Machinima was
And so there was
predatory,
like a
no.
bit of tension, I think, in the beginning between like gaming creators
More
and the
gray
gaming
area, or
studios
more
that
like
actually
dark gray,
publish or the publishers that publish the
agree.
games. But what ended up happening is, like, I still don't think there's any like legal clarity on that. It's just that the publishers came to the conclusion, I think correct conclusion, that having creators upload videos of their games actually benefits them, because it's like free advertising.
No,
So
I
they
get
just
that.
decide not to enforce these rules. With the React stuff, I think it's a little bit different, because a lot of times with React stuff, you know, you're reacting to I don't know if I can articulate why it's different.
Wait, can we linearize a little bit? So let's linearize a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you agree that Ethan is presenting that there's an existential risk to the community. He is presenting that there's an
I thought Pisco was a lot more like strict on the legal side of things, not this like public narrative, okay? Because let's be very clear here, okay? Pisco has an issue with the public narrative, all right? Pisco has an issue with the way that Ethan Klein presents himself in public, not in the lawsuit, in public, okay? I feel like normally, whenever something like that happens, I feel like Pisco would not care about that part, right? Like, am I wrong here? that Pisco normally doesn't care about like what a lawyer says to the public. Like doesn't it happen all the time where a newscast anchor asks like the lawyer of like some murderer, like the defendant, like the defending lawyer of like a murder, to say like something. It says he's like, this is a grave injustice, this is not okay, this is not acceptable, I believe in my client's innocence, and I hope that the public and the jury and the judge sees through to whatever. I mean, isn't that just kind of the same thing? I mean, it's still dishonest, but it's very common, right? It's very common for like a lawyer to give like a public statement to the press over a high like a high court case to have like no one believes them because they are just paid by the client, and that's literally it, right? He is one to always play devil's advocate, so maybe he's doing that. I hope so, and I hope that he isn't just like trying to appeal to J-Stalk and whatever. If he starts appearing on J-Stalk streams, it's fucking over, okay? Then we have confirmation, right? But like the thing is right now Pisco is still technically in his own little world. It doesn't seem like he's trying to tread into like the whole Hassan Orbiter world. I don't think he is. He's not like interacting with Sean the Black on stream, is he? He's not interacting with Denims. He's not like, yeah. So I mean, he's still in his own little world. He's still on live and learn. Yeah. I just hope that he's still just kind of being contrarian, you know?
Existential risk, and that,
Yeah,
with respect to outsiders.
Yeah, when reactors
Trying to look for content,
don't make any kind of good faith effort whatsoever to have the work be transformative, but in the particular egregious case of like Denims and Frogan, took it even a step further and announced as their stated goal to like,
let's
steal views for
linearize.
him.
You agree that he says that
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
an existential threat to the reaction community, right?
Yeah, do you agree with that?
Yeah,
I mean, do you agree
No,
with
wait,
his assertion?
well,
Yeah.
well,
I mean, do you believe fuck, who is the person that Johnny Depp was like having a lawsuit against? It was Amber something, right? Because I remember Amber Heard, okay, yeah. Because do you know what I remember? I remember Amber Heard and her lawyer saying, oh, this is for the rights of women. This is for the rights of women everywhere, right? Nobody believes her on that. Certainly nobody. And so did Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp also said, yeah, this was for the rights of men everywhere, right? So the thing is yeah, like these things are going to always be claimed. It's a normal thing that happens. Like, this just doesn't seem like an abnormal thing to say, like, yeah, I'm fighting for the rights of blah, blah, blah everywhere, right? It's a gross exaggeration and kind of delusional, but it's fine. Like, I could totally see, like, a lawyer I would hire who, you know, has to make a statement to the press who says something like that. It's normal, right? I just don't get why this is supposed to be a big deal. Anyway.
well, I do think potentially there is, and there's one of the reasons there's an
Yeah, Pixie is doing it for
existential threat to the
Destiny's
React
other
community
victims.
is because
Exactly.
A lot of React
Corey's right. Pixie is doing it for Destiny's other victims, right? Isn't that identical?
community is infringing. They're not fair use. It's infringement. So what the React community
You mean
does,
not transformative?
Transformative is one of the ways that you can achieve fair use status, right? It can be transformative, or it could fulfill any of the other factors. Transformative is most associated with purpose and character of the work as one of the 4 factors of, but it's not the only thing you look to fair use. But all of what's going on in the reaction community, there's probably a shit ton of infringement going on there that's not fair use, right? And by definition, not fair use. And so I believe that there probably is a looming threat from rights holders with respect to a lot of the React community, because a lot of the React community is infringing. And so I agree that he's setting that out. And he's saying that one of the reasons why I'm choosing to sue and establish a precedent on fair use of reaction content is actually to protect from Sony and Disney. That is so delusional as to be disingenuous.
Yeah, it's a public statement, and it is disingenuous, but it is not abnormal, right? It is delusional, it is disingenuous, but it's not abnormal for someone to say that to support their lawsuit, right? Support the public appearance of their lawsuit, right?
If you establish a precedent,
that's normal,
on fair use of reaction videos, it's going to be more narrow. It's going to be more narrow than what the content reaction community is doing right now. Almost certainly, it's not going to be on this line of people whose stated intent is to steal money. Imagine if that were the test, right? Imagine a court said, "Oh, all of this is okay as long as you say as long as you don't say you want to steal money from these people." That is obviously not what's going to happen. Like, imagine if all it took for you to pass the fair use muster for whatever precedent is to start your video.
All right, that's fine, Pisco. So why hasn't he sued Hassan? Why hasn't he sued Hassan? Why hasn't he sued anyone else who watched it? Right? Why hasn't he sued anyone else who watched it? Why did he sue only the people who have stated, yeah, this is to damage Ethan on purpose. Here's my motivation. Why is he doing that? I mean, that's a good question, Pisco, but the facts don't line up, does it?
Say no infringement intended, no infringement intended at all. Like, that's not what the court's gonna fucking say, because that shit don't matter, and everyone knows it. If they look in their heart of hearts, they know that the court's not gonna be like, okay, what's really gonna turn our precedent is whether or not the people individually have good intent or bad intent, or want to steal or don't want to steal, because it's not an element, and it's not relevant if you say nothing intended. Please, if you link to the Disney Plus, if you link to the Sony video, that doesn't matter if you're trying to push your audience towards them. It's infringement, it's infringement, it's infringement. So it's not going to be the case that any kind of precedent that Ethan turns out is going to drive on this distinction. That's why he's lying about that, or at least he's so deluded that it's the equivalent of lying. He's lying about that, in my opinion, or being disingenuous about it. And what's really happening is he's trying to shield himself by being what he's presenting himself as, which is the defender of fair use, the defender of copyright, which he was principled before. From criticism, because he knows that the people who are like XQC and Asmongold are popular, and he doesn't want XQC and Asmongold or their communities to think that their creators are at risk. And so he wants his targets, that is the unpopular people, he wants everyone to be on board against them. And that's why he invents this bullshit rationale of this is about protecting the broader community, when the fact is any generated precedent is not going to be limited to the kind of bullshit non-element that he's pointed to, which is the stated intention. And also he's claiming to try to protect something that he says is an injustice, which is he calls what XUC did an injustice even without the stated malicious intent. So that's my point.
No.
Can something be an injustice without having a malicious intent? Can something still be an injustice without like it having malice behind it? I think the answer is yes. If I were to run over a child, okay, a group of small children with a car, okay, accidentally, all right, that's an injustice. I didn't mean for these people to be killed, but it's still an injustice, isn't it?
But I think you're okay. I think you're taking him. I think you're.
Pisco, you are stupid. You are moronic. Okay, stop talking right now. Gosh, look at your smug little pudgy face. Okay, I just want to shave all the fucking hair off your face. Okay, make you bald. Okay.
I think you're misinterpreting what he's saying, because like I think I've said it a couple times, but like
how
I don't think he's saying. Because I don't think he's saying I want to protect XQC and Asmongold's ability to keep doing what they're doing.
Then why does he say I would never sue them? Why would he say I would never sue them?
You know what I would do? I would shove Pisco into a locker and take away his glasses, okay? I would hide his glasses somewhere where you can't find them, so he's just like fumbling around for his glasses, okay? That's what I want to do to Pisco! Okay.
Because I wouldn't want to chill the reaction. Why would he say that?
Excuse me, Your Honor?
I think it's because the potential...
Your
outcome
Honor,
of him going after like XQC and Asmon. Like, would you agree, for example, or like, let's use the Sony example, like
SpongeBob. that is a Helen's razor fallacy. Loki's wager.
Don't you think there's more of a risk of we'll call it like overcorrection, or don't you think there's more of a risk of a ruling that greatly limits the ability to react to the extent that people maybe don't even want to do it because they don't want to risk any kind of litigation? Like, don't you think that's more likely if the lawsuit comes from a company like Sony than an individual creator like Ethan?
No, I think an individual creator like Ethan is most likely to create bad precedent. And the reason I think that is because the big companies like Sony and Disney, when oftentimes they go after little fish, they they might sue, or they might just get a settlement, and they enforce their copyright by setting a precedent that they're going to start to sue, or they'll send you a cease and desist letter, or they'll use the DMCA, right? But it very rarely goes to any kind of opinion. But where we can get like one of the reasons why we're not getting clear precedent on these issues is because these big organizations, it never gets really to an actual merits opinion. But someone who's motivated by spite, not by money, and who really wants to make it hurt, we're more likely to get a merits opinion, which is damaging, from an Ethan Klein who doesn't care about money, doesn't care really about the underlying infringement, and just wants to make it hurt, than someone like Sony or Disney who, yeah, okay, you take down the content and the word spreads naturally, don't fuck with Sony, don't fuck with Disney, and it's very unlikely that those cases go actually to a merits opinion. And so I totally disagree. I think we're more likely to get bad precedent from someone acting out of spite and who's willing to go the distance than someone like Sony or Disney where they haven't really shown that tendency.
I just don't think Ethan and his lawyers are going to argue the case in the way that might steer towards something like that. And the other thing too is like, Ethan does react content. So like, I don't understand he obviously doesn't want to completely stifle his ability to do that himself. So yeah.
So I think that what he is doing is likely to result, if it were to go to kind of.
So, okay, so his position is because Ethan Klein is spiteful and he wants to spite other people, that's why he wants to pursue this litigation to the end and to actually like create bad precedent. Is that his position? So exactly how many lawsuits are spiteful? A lot. Okay, a lot of lawsuits are actually based off of spite, right? I guess the problem here is that Pisco isn't really comparing this lawsuit with other lawsuits of the same nature, or not of the same nature, but like other spite-based lawsuits or other lawsuits where I don't know, right? Like the thing is he's not. It feels like he's not really. I don't know. I don't know. I have to think about it. So he's gonna say consequences are gonna be bad, and Hutch is saying I don't think it's going to go that route. Yes. 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 Yeah. But also keep in mind that it's retarded for Pisco to assume that. Okay, I do think so. Okay, I do think so. I think it's retarded for Pisco to. I think it is retarded for Ethan Klein to state that he is trying to protect the rights of like reactors. Okay, but I think it's equally as retarded for Pisco to assume that the lawsuit is more likely to go in a specific way because of spite motivations. Okay, yeah, no shit. How do we know that there isn't spite motivations behind a Disney lawsuit? How do you know there's not spite motivations behind a Sony lawsuit? What if someone from Sony recognizes that person who owns the channel, and that's why they're going after a smaller channel? It just makes no sense.
Merits opinion on a dispositive motion to dismiss or on summary judgment, what would likely happen is,
how do you know they aren't doing house spite?
A narrowing of what's allowed under these kinds of react, genre or whatever, and people are unlikely to sue Ethan. Because in general, these people, like you said, the rights holders aren't as litigious as people expected. And so Ethan isn't seriously expecting a lawsuit from like Sony or Disney or any of these other content creators because they know that the litigation
spite-based lawsuit to Ethan is what Stranding type game to Kojima.
Expenses is such a barrier that oftentimes people don't give a fuck. And so he's not really worried about these other rights holders. He's worried about making these people hurt and protecting himself from criticism, and that's why he has to put in the savior rationale.
When you say protecting himself from criticism, what do you mean?
I mean protecting himself from the Asmongold or XQC community, who might be fearful that what he's doing, if he didn't distinguish them, right? If he didn't.
Motherfucker, Ethan Klein was more than happy to pick a fight with Hassan Piker. Why the fuck wouldn't he be afraid to pick a fight with Asmongold or XQC? If he is already willing to show that he is more than happy to pick a fight with a very, very large creator that he is still at war for, why the fuck wouldn't he do that? After all, I mean, isn't it supposed to be an extended crash out? He just doesn't give a fuck anymore? Self-destructive kind of shit?
Come up with some bullshit pretext that they'd be like, hey, hang on a second. This is fair use. He wants those people on his side. And so he wants to be like, no, this is different, this is different, this is different. And it is different. I'll grant him it is different, but it's not different in the sense of what the outcome will be for precedent. And it's not different in justifying a bullshit rationale, which is that he wants to protect people like XQC and Asmongold, or he wants to not chill them when he himself says it's an injustice. What would be an appropriate rationale for him to provide is saying, I'm going after these people because they're the worst of the worst. That's why I'm going after them. If he just said that,
It's a dog whistle to Hassan's community. I don't know. I mean, you can make an argument that maybe he's trying to appeal to at least a little bit of Hassan's community. For example, he defends Hassan when it comes to the airport checking. Okay, whatever, fine. You do that shit, okay? Number two, he defends Hassan's place in politics. Okay, two things, no problem. Number three, he is anti-Ethan Klein. Okay, so that's three things. I mean, if one dot is just a dot, that's just a dot, If you have two dots, that's a line, okay? If you have three dots, that's a trend, okay? So, I don't know, it's getting kind of spicy, okay? I'm not gonna lie.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Getting
But
kind
if
of
he
hot
said,
in here.
I'm going after these
okay?
people because of the worst, and because I want to protect you, I want to protect the reaction community, I want to protect people like XUC and Asmongold, and I want to protect all these reactors, that's what I have a problem with. Not him going after them because of the worst, but him going after them because I want to protect you. That is what I take to be disingenuous, and it's not. And I want you and I to agree on that. I mean, in what respect do you think that he's actually trying to protect?
Two dots make a line, that's an Aspen quote? No, that's a me quote. Three dots, that's a button. If it's a three dot, it's a triangle.
The React community.
That
How
makes
could
no
you ever
sense.
grant him that?
I could grant him that because he has a history of wanting to
Before.
protect creators. He has an established history, like on the record, of saying that he thinks that the way that a lot of React stuff happens is completely unfair to the creators.
Then why would he want to
And then
protect
also-
it?
And then
Hutch, why would he protect?
And then also the think about it this way: like if he did sue Asmongold and XQC for the kind of React that they do, it would chill the React community. Like a lot of people would stop reacting to content.
So is this. So would this.
I don't think no. This, like when I saw this,
Hello,
I
Peter.
didn't think to myself, like once I saw the whole video, I didn't think to myself, well, maybe I don't want to do any kind of React content. Like I can only speak to my experience, but what I did kind of immediately, it was just sort of like reevaluate. Like I think I'm already like,
I mean, again, he didn't sue every one of Hassan's orbiters, just most of them, okay?